there! So today I wanted to film a little video. It's kind of like a June TBR, but also it might be the start of a reading vlog. This is really weird for me to film because I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the footage yet. It's June and the weather has like kind of changed and it's really summery now. So, well, not really summery right now as I'm filming this. It's like 50 degrees out, but we've had a couple of 90-degree days and like some warm weather, and the next week is supposed to be gorgeous. So I'm kind of making another TBR on top of that TBR, but not really. And then I just want to chat about like a couple random things. So whatever. I'm giving myself a lot of grace in June to get back into reading and maybe filming and, you know, all the things. So I just have 3 main books that I want to read in June. 2 of them are from my seasonal TBR, and one of them is a new acquisition. So to get right into that, I have Mask of Mirrors. This is a fantasy. It takes place in like a Venetian-inspired setting. We follow like a thief slash con artist, and that's really all I could tell you about this book because this book is weird. Like it started out one way and now it's going a different way, and I don't know how I feel about it yet. But yeah, I'm excited to finish this month. I've actually been reading this for a couple months already, but this is the month. We're gonna finish this in June. And then the other one that is from that seasonal TBR is The Sugar Queen by Sarah Addison Allen. I picked this up at a little like independently owned bookstore. I saw it and I was like, I like candy. And I didn't really know anything about it. I still don't really know anything about it. So it says fiction on the spine, but it seems like it might be a little bit of like a magical realism aspect to it, or there might be a little bit of a magical realism aspect to it. So I'm interested to see what that's all about, and it's short, so it should be pretty easy to finish. She says once again when she never finishes anything in a month. So we're gonna try for that. And then this last one I actually just picked up at the bookstore. It came out at the beginning of May. The last book I read by this author I absolutely loved. So I'm hoping I'll love this one too, and I'm really excited about it, which is why it kind of jumped up to the top of my TBR. And that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I read Beach Read last year, I think, and I absolutely loved it. So I have high hopes for this. Like, Beach Read is probably one of my favorite books of all time, which it's hard for a contemporary romance to get on that list because it's mostly fantasy and fantasy romance. So yeah, I have really high hopes for this and I'm really excited to get to it. So it jumped to the top of the list. So the other thing I wanted to talk about in this video is I watched a short video by Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand today, and her friend Lindsay, I think her name is, are doing or created a summertime bingo board. Mine is ugly. I don't have a color printer, so please excuse that. If you go to her channel and watch her video, there's a link to like a really pretty, it's like purple and very summery looking, but they made a bingo board for like summer reading. It's not a readathon or anything, she said. It's just kind of for fun. So I printed that out and I kind of want to see, like, try my hand on it. It says it's for June, July, and August at the top, so I have 3 months to do it. That's it. Again, I don't know if this is going to be a video or just a vlog clip, but that's it for now. All right, so it's halfway through June, so I figured I would do a little bit of an update on my reading for the month. So far, I've finished 2 things. I finished The Fortunate Ones by R.S. Gray, which is like a contemporary romance. I've been working through all of R.S. Gray's books. They were kind of slump busters for me over the past maybe like 6 months now. I've read I've read a lot of R.S. Gray. But yeah, The Fortunate Ones, it was okay. It took place mainly at like a country club, and it was about one of the employees and one of the members. Well, not obviously, but you know, you can probably figure that out pretty quick. So that was all right. And then the other book that I finished was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I listened to that on audiobook and it wasn't what I expected. I kind of expected it to be more of like a self-help kind of like tips and tricks kind of book, but it actually ended up being more like anecdotes, like stories about people that changed their habits and companies that changed habits and stuff. So, I mean, it wasn't what I expected, but some of the stories in it were very interesting. I am still working my way through the Mask of Mirrors. At this point, that's kind of a joke. And my experience with that is fine. I am enjoying it when I read it, but I just haven't been gravitating towards like physical books. I've been mostly doing audio and ebook, so I think that's kind of slowing me down with that one. But again, so far I'm enjoying it, so whenever I finish it, I'm sure I'll have more opinions on it. I really like the story. I wish we were getting more of certain characters, but I'm getting more towards the end, so I think like the characters that I like are kind of starting to come more into the story again. I've been reading Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I'm almost halfway through it now, and that was a choice. I knew going into it, I read ahead of time. Well, I guess I didn't read ahead of time. It just happened to be a note at the beginning of the book saying that this particular book by Colleen Hoover was actually originally published on like kind of like a Wattpad type site. I don't know if it was actually Wattpad, but it was like a serial. She did basically a chapter at a time to help her work through writer's block and stuff when she was writing her actual, not her actual novels, but like her traditionally published works. So it's a little rough around the edges, and it's also very dark. I've only read one Colleen Hoover before. I read November 9 and I did not like it. But a lot of people that I trust their opinions on BookTube love Colleen Hoover. I'm not going to give up on it, but it deals with, you know, a girl who's in an abusive relationship with a drug dealer, and there's elements of cheating and, well, I wouldn't even say just elements. I would say a very strong theme in the book is cheating. And I'm not a huge fan of that, so maybe it was the wrong book to choose by Colleen Hoover. I probably should have chosen one of the other ones I have in my collection, but, you know, whatever. I don't hate it enough to stop reading it. Like I said, I'm almost halfway through, so we'll see how it goes. And then finally, on audio, I have been listening to The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I decided about time to start the Wheel of Time series. It's been on my list for a long time. My husband really enjoyed the books that he's read. I don't think he's actually finished the series, but like he started reading it a long time ago and he did like it, and he was super excited for the TV show, and the TV show was all right, but you know, whatever. I wanted to read it. And I am, I think like 3/4 of the way through that audiobook. I'm enjoying it. I like it. I have a long commute, so I get a lot of listening time in every day, so I'm working through it pretty quick. But it's keeping my attention. I'm enjoying it. The pacing is good. I like the characters. And honestly, like, usually when something is in, like, when there's been an adaptation, I try to read the book before I watch the adaptation. With this one, my husband was excited about the TV show. We watched the TV show before I read the book. I am finding that I like the pacing, like the slightly slower pacing of the book, more than I liked the TV show. I think the TV show was a little bit rushed. Like they rushed through some things. They cut out some things that I ended up really enjoying in the book. So we'll see. I'll check in again. We're about halfway through the month. It might be just at the end of the month. This might be kind of like a vlog style wrap up, I guess. I don't know. I wanted to check in because I've finished a couple more things since I spoke to you last. One was a 5-star and one was a 1-star. So we had a little bit of variety. I'm going to talk about the 5-star first. I might do a dedicated review video. I haven't decided yet, so I'm not going to go into like a ton of detail just in case I decide to. But that was The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I loved this book. I know I had talked a little bit about it in the last clip that I did, but I just enjoyed it so much more than I enjoyed the show. And actually talking to my husband yesterday after I finished it, he was kind of like, yeah, the show was meh. Because I thought he enjoyed the show, but then it turns out he was very like, I guess the more he sat with it, the more he was like, yeah, it wasn't really that great. And one of his critiques was, in the show, they kind of jumped around a lot, and they included things from like different books that weren't like in like season 1 didn't match up with book 1 like you would think it did. And like maybe he didn't want to say that because he didn't want to like spoil the book for me or something. My husband is very anti-spoiler. Like if you tell him that at some point in the book the main character is wearing a blue shirt, he's like, spoilers, like you can't do it. So yeah, I think he just didn't want to say anything about it. But yeah, there's just things that happened in the show that didn't even happen in this book, and then some of the things that I really enjoyed in the book they didn't include in the show. So I loved this book. Even though I had already watched the show first, it was like a completely new experience for me, and I cannot wait to continue. But yeah, so I might do a dedicated thing for this, so I'm gonna cut it there. This was definitely a 5-star read. I loved it. I can't believe I waited so long to read it, and I'm super excited that this is such a long series that I can now dive into and just enjoy for so long. And then the 1 star was something that I read on my Kindle, and that was Too Late by Colleen Hoover. So here's the thing. Again, I said in my last clip, I know it was like a serial thing that she was doing kind of for fun as like a slump buster, but oh boy. So this is my second work by Colleen Hoover. The first thing I read by her was November 9. I read it like a year or two ago, and I did not like it. So many people love Colleen Hoover, and I don't know if I'm going about her all wrong. I know this was not one of her, like, you know, intended to be published works. I know it's completely different. She gave you the warning at the beginning of the book, like, look, this was not a polished thing. This was just something I did for fun. But November 9 was a traditionally published book, and I really did not like it. So I should have known reading something that wasn't necessarily her best work was probably not the best move to make with Colleen Hoover. I'm not giving up on her yet. I'm going to give her another shot, but I just don't know where to go from here. So like, if you're a fan of Colleen Hoover, please tell me which book you think I'll have the best luck with. I didn't like November 9, and I absolutely hated Too Late. So something that's not like either of those, preferably. Just give me some guidance, because I really want to like her, but so far I'm just not having any luck. Too Late. Oh, okay. Lack of consent, just rape in general, drug use, abusive relationships, toxic relationships, cheating, violence. And on top of it, the characters were very one-dimensional. I don't want to say they were unlikable. Obviously, the villain was unlikable, but like the two main characters weren't even particularly likable, and they didn't do anything that gave them any kind of redeeming qualities that I would want to root for them. And then just in general, like I said a million times already, it was serially released, so like it hit a point where it was like, okay, the end. But then she wrote a prologue, and then she wrote an epilogue, and then she wrote an epilogue to the epilogue, and then she wrote like 50 million more chapters, and like each one, instead of adding to the story, it was just making the story worse. And it was making me like it even less. And to the point where I got to the last couple, I think I was at like 98%, like 97 or 98% on my Kindle, and I almost put it down at that point. But then I was like, well, I'm already so close to being done. It says I have like 10 minutes left of the book. I might as well just finish it. But I was done. I was checked out. I was done. I hated it. I hated what was happening. I was sitting there like, why is she adding this to this story? Like, why does this story need this in it? So, yeah, that was my experience with November 9. November 9. Well, that kind of was my experience with November 9 as well. But right now I'm talking about Too Late. That was my experience with Too Late. And yeah, I hated it. It was a 1 star. But I mean, at least I had a 5 star right before it. So it didn't put me into like a complete bad mood, because I can just forget that existed and just think about how I have more Wheel of Time to read. So that's that. I do have one more book, I think, that I'm very close to finishing. And then I'm going to continue working on Mask of Mirrors. And then I also started some audiobook that was on my Libby front page. What was it? The Offlimits Rule? The Offlimits List? The Offlimits Rule by Sarah Adams, I think is what it's called. I'll put the picture here. So far I'm not enjoying it. I'm like 18% in, and it's kind of written as if a high schooler was writing adults. If that makes sense. It's not very well done. But I'm going to keep going with it. It's a quick little audiobook. I pretty much am just using it as a palate cleanser. I guess I can go over my little summertime bingo board. So far for this, just as a check-in, for backlist book and book by favorite author, I have The Fortunate Ones by R.S. Gray. New to me author, favorite book from my favorite genre, and a book with a TV or movie adaptation would be Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. New BookTube accounts. I checked that one off. I have been jumping back into BookTube, so I've been watching a bunch of new channels, so I will link a bunch of them in the description below so you can check them out if you have not. A book by Lindsay or Sarah's favorite author, and participate in reading sprints. Those were fulfilled by Too Late by Colleen Hoover. They both list Colleen Hoover as one of their favorite authors. That's kind of why I chose to read a book by her for that prompt. So yeah, again, I think I'm reading Colleen Hoover wrong. If you enjoy Colleen Hoover, please give me like her most foolproof, fail-safe book to read, because I want to like her. I'm picking the wrong books, I think. And reading sprints, they weren't live, but I just threw on like reading sprints that Krista from Books and Jams had done last night. I just threw on like a replay of those just to get through Too Late, because I had like 10% left and I was like, I need to just sit down and power through and finish this book. So I threw those on in the background and I did that. So that's where I'm at with my bingo board. That's where I'm at with my reading. Yeah, I guess I'll check in again sometime after I finish something else or have some more thoughts. All right, so I'm gonna do my final check-in for this June kind of vlog style reading wrap up. I'm gonna call it that, even though it's not really like a vlog style. I've basically just been checking in throughout the month. I have 2 more books to talk about. I mentioned one in my last check-in, and then the other one was just a children's book, so it was a quick read. And then I'm also going to just talk about the books that I started in the month of June, but I haven't yet finished as of filming this. So the book I mentioned last time was The Offlimits Rule by Sarah Adams. Yeah, Sarah Adams. And basically it finished as it started. It wasn't very good. I didn't really enjoy it. I gave it 2 stars. I made some notes while I was reading it because it bothered me so much. So the main characters were Cooper and Lucy, and I cannot tell you how many different, actually I can. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cooper's eyes were described with 4 different kind of colors. Aqua, Tahitian water, cyan, and ocean eyes. All that to say he had blue eyes, and we like to talk about them a lot, and we couldn't just call them blue. We had to use every different shade of blue. And then Lucy, I will read my notes word for word here. Lucy is a 29-year-old single mom, cute with deflated boobs and inch-long leg hair, super low self-esteem, uteruses and ovaries exploding all over the place. And then my next note was just seriously with a question mark. And then, oh, and Cooper has a hard-on for marriage, because of course he does. Lucy tore down another woman because she thought Cooper was on a date with her, which wouldn't have happened if Cooper hadn't brought his friend to the same place he knew Lucy was on a date. Cooper knows how to braid hair and paint nails. If I wasn't 65% through this book already, I'd DNF it. So those were the notes that I took on the book. I didn't like it. I actually don't know. I don't know if it was this author's first book or whatever. I didn't bother to look at that, but it almost seems like it was, like the writing almost seems like it was this author's first book. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a fan. And then the only other thing that I finished in June was Pink is Not a Color by Lindsay Ward. It was an illustrated children's book, and it was a Kindle first read, and honestly none of them really appealed to me, so I just picked, pink is my favorite color, so I was like, I'm gonna read this children's book about pink. So I did. It was very cute. It was different for me. I don't really ever read illustrated children's books. On my book spreadsheet, it's not even like listed in the audience for a book. I have adult, new adult, young adult, middle grade. I don't even have children's books on there. So it was different. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was very cute, and it took me literally like 5 minutes to read. So that was the last book that I actually finished in June. I guess I will update again on my little summertime bingo. The only two I checked off were 3 different colors on the cover for the Offlimits Rule, and 2022 release was Pink is Not a Color. So that's as far as I got with this. I think that's pretty good for the first month. I checked off quite a few. And then books that I am still currently reading that I haven't finished as of filming this video. I started Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This was actually in the last video I filmed, or the last video I put out was a July TBR, so I did kind of cheat. I started this at the end of June. And the reason for that is this book takes place in North Carolina on a vacation, and I was in South Carolina, not technically on vacation. It was actually for a family thing, but my husband and I were in South Carolina for a weekend at the very end of June. So I figured, you know, Carolina vacation, this book is a vacation in Carolina, so I picked it up. This is what I chose to bring with me, and I did start it. I am 110 pages in right now. So that, and then of course, Mask of Mirrors. I was so determined to finish this in June, but I still have about 100 pages left. It will be one of the first things that I finish in July so that I can get to The Liar's Knot, which was also on that July TBR. So yeah, that's it. Oh, and I also listened to Crown of Midnight, the second book in the Throne of Glass series. I read Throne of Glass in April. I didn't really love it. I had all the same criticisms as most people, like for being an assassin, Selena's really not very good at anything or aware of her surroundings. And I'm pretty sure it was Sarah J. Maas's first published work, and it shows. It wasn't amazing, but I liked it enough that I was like, okay, I'll continue. I'll see what it's all about. Enough people enjoy Throne of Glass as a series that I was just kind of like, okay, I'll continue. I'll see where it goes with the second one. And I'm not completely finished with the second one at the end of June, so it will probably be the first thing I finish in July, but I'm enjoying it. I think it is worlds better than the first book. So that's all I'll say about that one, because like I said, I'm going to finish it in July, so I'll probably talk about it in my July wrap up. And yeah, that's where I am at the end of June. So that's going to be it for this video. I have to edit all these clips together, and I feel as though I rambled in all of them, so this might end up being a long video. If it is, I'm sorry, because I probably didn't say much. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video and this wrap up. I hope you guys had a good reading month in June. And yeah, let's see how we do in July. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.